Welcome to the Ryan Holtz Show. On this show, you can expect the latest, the greatest, and the best curated content on business, marketing, automotive, and lifestyle. Sit back, put in your earplugs, and let's enjoy the ride. Now, as always, I want to make sure you get the best in content that will help you monster your goals, both personally and professionally. I want to keep this conversation going, so please check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope at Ryan Holtz 1. And then go over to facebook.com/Ryan Holtz Marketing, and we can chat there too. I also want you to visit www.ryanholtz.ca, as this will be where I put my almighty beloved show notes. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am proud to bring you the Ryan Holtz Show. Let the beat drop and enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Ryan Holtz Show Podcast. I have to say, for the last few episodes, quite a few episodes, I've been having amazing guests on and things like that, but it's always nice to come back and set it right and get back to that one-on-one. But I got Mrs. Holtz on the line here, and she is going to be joining us today. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. A few things. First off, thank you for the reviews. Thank you for the listenership. Thank you for the constant messages of support. Just a friendly reminder, we do have a Facebook group. Just simply search Ryan Holtz Show Podcast Community. Also, we are on social media at the Ryan Holtz Show Podcast on Instagram and on Facebook and all those good things. You can follow me at Ryan Holtz 1 on any of the channels. But today, we have no topic to discuss. Today's going to be some good old-fashioned lifestyle. A few things that got me jacked up was watching a Joe Rogan podcast interview with David Goggins. If nobody knows who David Goggins is, he's a bad motherfucker. He's crazy. And, Nora, what do you think about always having to listen to these videos that I watch, and you'll be doing something really important, and then all of a sudden I'm kind of pulling you into the kitchen saying, like, hey, I really want you to watch this, or so what do you think of all these things?
Okay, first of all, it's not in the kitchen. It's like between 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock at nighttime when I'm falling asleep, and you're like, hey, watch this, and then you get me all jacked up watching a YouTube video or something about some like motivational speaker or somebody who's, trying to get into the Navy SEALs, or someone that's doing like 10,000 pull-ups or whatever. And sometimes, I go throughout the day, or I fall asleep with this like idea in my mind, and I'm like, that was really amazing. And sometimes I'm like, hey, now I can't fall asleep, and I'm just jacked up just listening to these people. But no, I love when you bring things, to me. I have to say, I don't really go searching for those things myself. So I bring you different kinds of like YouTube videos, and I'm like, look at this place to visit, and look what, how this chef is cooking something, and then you bring different things to me. I think it's good to swap ideas and things like that.
It's interesting because I think that life is simple, and I just can't get over the fact that people walk around very systematic, very pre-programmed. I don't know if their level of curiosity is heightened or they're getting trampled by the day-to-day. I'm just fixated with the notion that, we get one life to live, and people are just constantly, getting bogged down in things that really don't matter. Materialistic things. People are focused on making money. People are focused on, buying a new vehicle or a new this or a new that, and basically handcuffing themselves with those almighty golden handcuffs of debt. I think I'm fascinated what makes people tick, why they do what they do, and I think I'm more fascinated by, I don't think the average person understands why they do what they do, and that's that level of self-awareness. So David Goggins basically said, you know what, I want to be uncommon amongst uncommon people. Yeah. And that was a huge standout for me because he said, he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. and he became a Navy SEAL. But he said, okay, as soon as I became a Navy SEAL, now I'm just a Navy SEAL. So he wanted to be even more uncommon amongst Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
And he talked about the deliberateness of him not using social media a lot because he said, I want to actually, be inside my mind, be with myself.
Yeah.
And he felt that, social media impacted the way people think negatively. So for you, I mean, what do you think of all that? And everyone who's listening right now, Nora and I are very different in our thought processes because Nora will listen to something once. She's like, okay, cool. I got the point. And I'm like, I'll dissect it where I'm like, I'm trying to understand how it relates.
Yeah. So watching that YouTube video, with David, first of all, it kind of created some anxiety because he starts off talking about, his childhood and what actually led him to do all these things. What I got from it, I'm super motivated. I feel like putting on a pair of running shoes and going outside and telling myself I can do this. That's how he made me feel. At the same time, I found that he kind of used it as a form of therapy and continuous therapy for himself, saying if I fear this, if I can't do this, I'm just going to jack myself up and go and do it and get over these fears. So some people smoke weed. Some people have a bath, some people have wine, some people go see a therapist, some people use, exercise as a form of therapy. I listen to this guy and it just sounds almost like a daily therapy routine for himself, physically and mentally. And, mind and body are always connected. So there's a lot of things that I took from listening to him. Absolutely.
The way you process information is so different, though. One of the biggest things that he said was the ability to callous your mind. So he said, when he was younger, he quit everything. Yeah. He was 297 pounds, big guy. Yeah. He said, he just basically sat on the couch
drinking milkshakes.
Yeah. He took a job spraying roaches underneath a restaurant. Yeah. And he said for him to achieve his goals, he needs to figure out how to callous his mind the same way you would callous your hands if you're lifting weights or something like that. Yeah. So he said everything that he was scared of, he basically said, he's like, I'm a badass motherfucker. And I have to go out and I have to do it. And and if I'm scared of it, I got to go crush it.
Yeah, so he mind fucked himself, basically.
He mind fucked himself, right?
Basically.
But even when Joe Rogan opened up on the interview, Joe Rogan's like, you're the only guest I've had on my show that was doing push-ups and pull-ups when I arrived at the studio. So Joe Rogan was like, yo, dude, he's like, I literally was in my car watching you in front of the place. And he's like, I didn't even know what to say. And David Goggins was like, yo, this is just a lifestyle. Yeah. So, what do you think of all that? And I mean, how do you kind of transition that? You're very low key. You're very chills. Takes a lot for you to get really crazy. Yeah. You love your food. But again, how does somebody callous their mind? How do you face your fear, Well,
I think to some extent, some people just jump into something and they're like, if I fail, I fail. But at least I tried. So that's a very generalized question and very broad, question too. So it's, I don't really know. I think, I don't know. For me, I have fears. I mean, I don't know who doesn't have fears. So I think you need to spend time with yourself and need to reflect and then ask yourself, why do I feel these, these things and these fears and how can I overcome them? I listening to David, I mean, he's an extremist and a lot of those genius people out there are people that are obsessed, have OCD and, I think we can all agree that they're the 1%ers. They're the ones that stand out. They're the ones that are super successful. I mean, super successful with this is what I want to do. And I have flexibility and I have money. And this is what helps me be at peace, so to speak. Right. So kind
of goes back into that Ryan Holiday podcast that we're listening to, right? Again, with Joe Rogan. So when we do our drives from Alberta to BC, the cars inflaming with podcasts and educational material. Because I'm a big fan of maximizing opportunities. Even Dejan's in the back, Unzi's in the back.
She's barking or whining or something.
But everybody's getting educated on those drives. And I think that, you know, to me, that's a big thing. I think that's something that's important. Ryan Holiday talked about having a child and how having a child made him slow down
and prioritize.
Yeah. And he said something about human being, not human basically
doing.
Not human doing.
Yeah.
And again, that's a great quote. He says, you know, we call human beings, not human doings.
Just to be.
So he said having a child, and I feel this way too, is every time you wake up in the morning, you're always focused on what are you going to get done and what are you going to get accomplished. But sometimes the hardest thing is just to be. And for me, I've learned how to be. And even the interviewer said to him, well, do you think that's a good thing because you're not being productive? He said, absolutely, I'm being productive, but it's in a different way. And that's now allowing me to really do huge reflection. What do you think of that?
Well, I think sometimes the hardest thing to do is not do anything at all. Right? I know for me, I don't consider myself to be like an extremist or, you know, have any kind of compulsions or like OCD but I'm a person that has like a lot of energy. So like you always tell me, like, Nora, like you're sitting down, you're having like a glass of wine or a cup of tea or coffee or something, but I can see your eyes just going everywhere and you're just like, you need to stand up. Like it's hard for you to sit down. So I think it's hard sometimes. I think that if you're the person that's really lazy and is always sitting down in front of the TV or on your social media or on your phone, like you're somebody that should probably try and balance out your life by, you know, like standing up and going outside or doing something in the kitchen instead of ordering out, like maybe cooking. And if you're the opposite way, like myself, where I have a very difficult time, you know, like sitting down and then, you know, like with a child, like you have to prioritize. I burned myself out saying like, I can do it all. I'm going to get up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put him down for a nap. And then I'm going to go do these things a while, you know, like Dejan's having a nap and you're like, whoa. Like, how about you just take this time out for yourself? Because you'll be a better person, a better mother, a better wife, a better everything. Right. So it's about like self-reflecting and then slowing down and saying, okay, what should I do? And what really benefits me and my family, right?
Well, I think the biggest thing, though, is in life, humans get bored. Totally. And we spend a lot of time going around and trying to fill our days with things and be accomplished and, you know, achieve. And I think that, you know, it forces us into this state of mind or state of being that's not really being anymore. Yeah. So, you know, you and I were talking even the other day. We're like, what makes a good podcast? You know, because even myself, I got this podcast, and I'm like, okay, where do you want to go with it? Yeah, you know, you can have a podcast where you bring on guests and interview and do all that, and everybody who's listened to. I mean, this is going to be episode 34 that we're doing. Yeah. There's been 33 episodes prior, and I would have to say 90% of the guests have said, you know, the same thing in different ways through different perspectives and contexts, right? Right. And then some people that tune the podcast are like, man, I don't want to think deep today. I just want to be entertained. Yeah, absolutely. I'm bored, you know? Yeah. I want to get into all this deep stuff. So, again, I was watching a cool video, and Gold Coast is one of my favorite places, which you know. Yeah. You send me videos all the time, and you take me on Facebook. But I can't remember his name. He's a doctor. Anyways, he's some big black dude. But he said, ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. And the quote is amazing. And even Nora's like, damn, what you been doing, brother? You got these nice little things written in here. And I literally have a folder in my phone that says, read every day, literally, you know, these things, because my mind is so rampant. And, you know, I try to get really simplistic thoughts and principles that I want to live my life by every day without having that cordoned, you know. Ross, you know, one of the guests that was on previously, he used the cream mentality, where he says, you know, calendars rule everything around me. Content rules everything around me. Yeah. I love calendars, and I have to use calendars because we're busy, but I hate the formattedness of like, oh man, I got to plan everything out. Yeah. Because I think I'm going with a Buddhist aspect in the sense, or just maybe a me aspect, where man, I just want to wake up and do what I got to do.
Well, and then
planning everything.
Yeah, and you're true to how you feel.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you're tired, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to do, like a 5-kilometer walk this morning, or maybe I'm just going to meditate, or maybe I'll do some yoga. And, like we both wake up here in BC. Like we have a little bit more, a little bit of extra time, and you're like, what do you want to do today? And like some days I'm like, I don't really know. And I haven't really decided yet. Like right now I just want to have a cup of coffee and we'll kind of just go with the flow. I think that's really important.
I think it is important. And, again, for you're stepping into the podcast world. That's something.
I can see why you like it though.
Yeah.
It feels kind of like, it's like you can express yourself. You can use it as like a little bit of therapy. It's always nice if someone's, just like gives you like a little bit of feedback on on what you're thinking. I love talking to you on this though. Like it kind of reminds me of what friends have told me about like if they smoke a big joint with a really good friend and they're like, this is the coolest conversation I've ever had.
Dude.
Like, dude, man.
Do you see that light bulb right now?
No.
Is that really 40
you're
watts?
Like, get into this like 5-minute conversation and it feels like it's a half hour, but it's really not. And you're like, that's so deep. And I think you and I have these conversations at like 3 a.m. and you always wake me up and you're like, so, and you always like brush my hair or something and you're like, hi. Like I'm pretending like I'm awake and I'm not.
That's a little creepy.
No,
Dude,
no.
really
You kind of gently wake me up. I mean, we all do this to our partners. We're like, are you awake? But you don't really ask that.
Just remember, we got kids listening to this podcast.
Yeah. Kids can listen. Kids can listen.
Gently waking up.
Yeah, gently waking up, right? And then you want to get into this like deep conversation, right? And I'm like, we should put this on the next podcast. I really like this. This is fun. I can see why you like it though.
What do you think it's? But do you think it's what? Like why though? I mean, I know you answered it kind of, but like, what does it make you feel like to do a podcast?
Okay, so it makes me feel like, in a sense, it's like having like a dinner party or inviting some friends over, and everybody's having like 1 or 2 sips of wine or alcohol or whatever, and then it gets kind of heavy into the night, and you kind of like 2 people are kind of going back and forth in this major conversation, and then all of a sudden the people that are around you are like, hey, like I want to kind of chime in and I want to listen to this and I want to comment on this. And it's always nice to walk away from any kind of conversation, with some value.
Well, even if I go into even all the people that like we bring on and talk to, if you like listen to the first leg of the podcast, you can tell it's like, hey, just trying to feel it out. Where are we going with the podcast? Where are we going with this conversation? Yeah. And then once you get to that half point, it's like, whoa, everybody's loosened up. They want to talk, they want to chill, they want to tell everything that they want to tell. And then the guests that even if they're like, even if it's a guest that's like, notables in the sense of like they're busy, all of a sudden that like 1 hour timeline, they're like, oh, don't worry, man, I'm really enjoying this. Yeah. And we can talk as long as you want. It's like a first date. It's like a first date. Yeah. You need that appetizer. Maybe you need the car bar. You remember the car bar? I used to do the car bar.
Oh, yeah.
I was cheap as a motherfucker.
Well,
I ain't pay no $6 for a drink.
Or you're a young person, you'd be like, I gotta say,
if you law enforcement, you listen to this podcast right now. First of all, we are not operating a motor vehicle. It's completely legal. But back in the club days, and you cannot criminate me for this, I used to do the car bar. You get the bottle. Yeah. You drink it. Then you walk into the club. Yeah. Now you got the glow.
The glow.
Yeah, the glow. It's a little crazy. Now you got the glow. Then you walk up in the club.
I'm the shit.
Yeah.
I feel
great.
Then
you get like a beer. You marinate on that for a little bit.
Shot in a beer.
Yeah. Some Boston style.
Long walks bring a piece of gum if you're drinking beer.
Long walks on the water. Yeah. Some from Boston.
Because beer breath
from Dorchester. I'm from Dorchester. You just ain't even Boston right now. I said from Dorchester.
That's like when I did like the English accent and you're like, Nora, that's
put
you're
some
butchering.
Shrimp on the barbie. Hello. Welcome to this area of London.
Welcome to my lake.
My lake. Welcome to the epicenter of the Buckingham Palace.
We are going to London.
We're going to London, United Kingdom, baby.
So we're gonna try
Queen
and
Elizabeth,
like,
what's up, baby?
Yeah.
What's up, baby?
Is that where Buckingham
Team Holtz?
No.
Team Holtz, Team Buckingham.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. You know how it is. You know how it is. The
St.
Queen
Paul's
better be ready
Cathedral,
for us.
and then what is it
Liverpool.
again? The Eye.
London Eye.
London Eye.
Yeah, the London Eye.
Do we still figure out what that is yet?
I don't know what the London
We
Eye
didn't.
is.
Yeah,
I don't
we
know
didn't
what
watch
that
like enough
is.
YouTube videos yet.
No, not yet. Still got about 25 more hours.
So
of that.
London, yeah.
Sometimes I feel like before I get there, I've already been there. Street View, Google View,
But then what
YouTube videos.
But is like,
and I'm like, here it is.
Every city
Here it
that,
is.
like the same though. Every metropolitan city. I mean, like you change
Every
up the
city-
accent, you change up a little bit of the culture. Like
I think every city's the same, but it's
pockets are different. Vibe is
just
different.
like anything in the world. You can wear Versace
Yeah.
and you could wear Walmart,
Yeah.
and I could care less what you wear,
Or Prada.
but it's how you wear it and who's wearing it
I'm
and what
thinking
they're
Prada
doing with
right
it.
now.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
And my bank account is digging
Yeah.
Prada too. Prada's digging the bank account actually.
And I love you for it.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do. So you like the podcast.
Yes.
It's a form of expression.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know. I mean, I love podcasting. It's so funny now because you see everybody's coming out with a podcast. But what makes a great podcast to me is, real talk. It really comes down to it.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows as you're listening, and I should have said this at the beginning, but our slogan now is curiosity is our mandate. I really tried to get what this podcast was about in one statement.
Yeah, you gotta feel it out.
And curiosity about everything.
Yeah.
So when people come on and talk now, I'm literally telling them, the only cheat sheet I'm giving them before they come on is, our theme is curiosity is our mandate.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody I've said it to, they're like, oh, that's a deep statement. Like,
Yeah.
wow, it makes you start thinking a little
Yeah.
bit. But, Joe Rogan goes down. Like he's got a great podcast for a reason.
Because he's a great conversationalist, though.
He's just a real. I love Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I have to say he's my favorite podcaster.
He's so like relaxed, and I get annoyed by like too much of anything.
Yeah.
Like, and I like Gary Vee for
Yeah.
instance, but I'm like, okay, that's enough of him. But like Joe Rogan, like when I listen to him, I'm like, for sure, he probably packed a bowl, like smoked something, prior to like his interview. And, if he doesn't like something, he'll say it. He's just kind of chills, not too hyped up. And then, he's kind of like the frame around the picture.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He wants to bring out the best in the people that he brings out. But I think because he just
with that David Goggins interview, look what he's doing there. He was quiet.
he was very quiet.
He talked 7% of that interview.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah. And I don't really. I think it's with anything. Anytime you want to come out, if it's like a passion project or if it's something that you want to, like, you love and you want to make money at, I think that you have to be true to yourself and that you can't think too much about what people care about. So if you're going to come out with a podcast because it's like the in thing, or like, hey, like I think I'm interesting, and you're jumping in with the wrong intentions or the wrong vibe, people are going to feel it.
I go back to Sean Canal,
Canal, yeah.
Sean Canal, the YouTube
Yeah.
guy, and he said, I asked him the question of, how do you feel like? It feels like if somebody takes a Nikon D500 and reviews that camera 100 times, and then you come in with your 101st review.
Yeah.
So many people have already talked about this piece of content, but he said a lot of people get put back because they said, well, why should I talk about it? Because it's already been talked about.
Yeah.
But he said people aren't necessarily listening to you because it's that piece of, it's that necessarily topic. Yeah. They want to know your perspective.
Yeah.
So he even said, he's like, I have things like, guys, they want to
Yeah.
hear a woman's voice.
Yeah.
Women get way more, plays because they feel more comfortable listening to a woman.
Yeah.
Or if I'm a guy, I want somebody who's like, he even said, he's like, I'm energetic and upbeat. He's like, I've had messages of people telling me like, dude, you're annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
So he's like, that's cool. So he's like, that guy's probably going to clip over to another guy where maybe he's a little bit more calm.
Yeah.
He said the biggest thing about content creation, and it's so funny because a lot of people say create content for your audience.
Mm-hmm.
You got to figure out who that audience is first, if it's even an audience. But what he basically said was, don't worry about who you're creating it for. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Because people will find you and enjoy it because you're going to give a different perspective on it.
Of course.
And so many people out there right now, they have so much to say.
Yeah.
and they sit in their shitty lives or fake lives and
in a box.
Don't say it. That's why when I meet somebody and they're meek and they're trying to give me some, eggs and bacon type of bullshit answers, I'm going to sift out that motherfucking steak. I'm gonna pit you into your soul.
That's like when we first met.
I'm gonna come into your soul and I'm going to violate it. I'm going to violate the soul because I can smell that shit a mile away.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
But you know that. You know that about me.
I do know that about you.
I mean, if you try to dodge me, oh man.
Well, who wants vanilla?
I'm like a cockroach underneath the fry cooker.
Who wants vanilla? It's like buying like an actual like cupcake. It's like who wants like a vanilla frosting? Like people want like cayenne. Cayenne. Be careful with that pen,
put
baby.
That down right now. Holy smokes.
People want like cayenne with bacon and buttercream on a cupcake. Like people want different. They want exotic. They want you to like take them out of their life,
But then they don't necessarily. Like people
do
now,
it.
Well, people now they're like, oh, I want different, but they don't necessarily want different.
Okay.
Because everybody's saying I want different.
Right.
It's like hipster, right? I want minimalist, and then everybody's being minimalist.
No.
And then it's like I want different.
People talk a lot.
I want different.
People talk a lot. Okay.
People talk a lot of shit.
When you and I travel, for instance, right? This is like the biggest topic. Well, like one of them. We go to some beach vacation. This is even prior to having Deshaun, our son. We go to a beach vacation and we'll have like a few drinks, and then we look around us and you see these Canadians and Americans and like whoever else, like Russians, whatever, big bellies, like nice bodies, European. They're wearing like their little like Speedos and whatever. And then in a day or two, we see them again on the beach, and they're getting shit faced. They're all burnt up like lobsters. They're all trying to pack in like this short amount of time on vacation to do everything, like to like really like enjoy life, right? You have people that go to Europe and they're like, oh, I love the way the Europeans do it. I love the way that the Spanish do it or the Italians do it. And look how much like they have like a washer and dryer in one, and it takes up like, like such less space. And I'm really taking like, like something home from like like from Mexico or, Europe or whatever. And then they come home and they're back to the same old, buying things in bulk. Right. Like not taking like enough time for themselves. Like instead of just doing drive-through, maybe get out of your vehicle and like, like step out and say hi to the person that's like serving you or like really like make some changes in your life, right? So a lot of people, they're just like, it's just like a wham bam, thank you ma'am type of perspective. Yeah. It's like, I want to get it all in, and then they want to come home and have this big conversation about their experience, but then it goes back to like the everyday life, right? And I mean, you read a book, you go on like an adventure or experience, or you listen to a podcast or you watch a YouTube video. Don't just use, the information that you've taken in or the content that you've taken in, just with like, like in like another conversation that you have with somebody. Like try to implement it in your life and make some changes.
I was thinking, because you and I always research our trips before we take them.
Totally.
And you see all these vloggers and like the meme icons and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think people need to understand. I think even like there's so much crap. Not crap. I won't say crap. There's so much content out there about topics.
Yeah.
I always say quarter of it garbage.
Yeah.
Next quarter of it's like, whatever. And then you get down to like the nitty gritties where you're like, oh, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't do though is they don't go into the nitty gritties of the experience.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we're watching that Rick Steves guy.
I like him.
Which if people don't know who Rick Steves is, go Google him. I mean, he's like
the OG.
He's the OG travel vlogger. He's got the like crossbar on the glasses from Seattle, Washington. Yeah. Created travel books, made a $1 million business out of
for the Americans to travel.
For the Americans to travel.
Yep.
And he basically said, my job is to screw up on my trip, land up in terrible situations so that I can now educate and inform our readers and audience about it. Which when you really think about it, like he's a pioneer.
Totally.
This is even as we're watching these videos, you can tell they're literally done on VHS.
Yeah.
Some of them. So he's thinking far ahead, but even when they're doing the behind the scenes of his travel adventures, he's taking notes, he's doing all these different things. And he became basically like a celebrity because people are like, yo, I want to get on Rick Steves' book because if I'm a tour company or I'm a restaurant, I mean, that maximizes the business. But what I love about him was he goes deep into, he's kind of like the Eddie Huang / I mean, Eddie Huang or Anthony Bourdain to me would be like a modern day Rick Steves.
Yeah, and the back alley and the griminess. And
so they're going.
But he was talking about sorry to interrupt, but he was talking about like Amsterdam and that how in his travel book for Amsterdam, he's actually covering, where you can buy marijuana and how much a joint is in the red light district.
Nora keeps talking about weed. This is number 4. This is the weed.
Well, you know what?
I'm gonna have to put like a little hook in here, like a little. I'm gonna put in a little weed smoking keep on effect.
Opening up around me, and so I think like
we're gonna do one on
consciously.
We're gonna talk about weed in the future in a big way, and then we're gonna talk about stocks and what companies do that I think are gonna rocket in terms of weed. There's so many things we can talk about. My mind is full. My ears are starting to protrude because I got so much information that I want to share on this podcast. But I can't choke you guys with information overload. So I want to make sure that the information's coming in a way that's not going to absolutely rip your buttocks and your soul out of your body. I want to make sure that you can go to and take a bowel movement, and I also want to make sure that you are going to sleep in peace at night.
Those two things are so important.
I have to pace it out. Told Nora I have to be really patient with this podcast because if it was me, I'd probably like record like 150 episodes in 48 hours.
Yeah,
and just like.
But then you wouldn't shovel the driveway and you wouldn't take out the garbage.
No, I always find time for that. I always find time for that. But no, like so if you think about. I mean, going back to the weed stuff and then going back into
travel and just like Anthony Bourdain and
but you're like you said, he's going to the back alleys. Back in the day, it was so funny because people would always show like 5-star restaurants and all these like nice glamorous places, and people now are starting to say, well, like, where's that $6 like piece of shit hole in the wall that I actually want to go to and explore?
Well, it's two perspectives. People want the experience and they want the culture, and they're not like necessarily getting that from like a 5-star resort that makes everything pretty and that folds up your towels and everything else. And then also people are trying to save. Yeah. Like, like money is a huge issue. So they're like, well, how can I go and like, like spend more time in Europe or anywhere else and really take in the culture, and like really like enjoy myself for a fraction of the price. And I think people like back in the day would like associate like 5-star or 4-star with like safe. And now, you have TripAdvisor and all these other things, online, and it makes it very transparent. And, people are like, I had a horrible experience at like the Sandals Hotel or whatever it's called, right? Or this hotel that was a 4 or 5-star, or I found the staff to be, blah, 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 blah. But maybe you want to go to Toby's. In like Montego Bay. That's just like a little motel, but they give you all the experience and all the culture. I mean, it all depends on what you know.
Listen, this is
your choices.
No, but this is the thing. This is the thing. So Airbnb is talked about a lot, but then you have places like VRBO, HomeAway.
Yeah.
But we talked about this the other day. It's a sharing economy. Yeah. Why Airbnb and all these, different forms of travel or different forms of inhabitants or where you're going to stay are ruling and becoming such a such a monstrosity in our society is that people don't, for the love of God, they don't always want to see the end product. Yeah. Most times they don't care about the end product. No. They want to see the journey. Of course. And it's the story. And this goes way back into what I was saying, about in school, the first thing we were taught to learn was, hey, I have a story. Yeah. And the moment you tell even an adult, hey, I have a story for you, they're like, oh, you have a story. Yeah. So in anything you do now, Gary Vaynerchuk says, document and instead of create. Gary Vaynerchuk's not saying any shit that wasn't said before, though. He's just doing it with this, like, Serbian, Russian fucking crazy mentality, right? With his K-Swiss shoes. Yeah. Right, and his skinny ass with his iPhone in his hand, with D-Rock filming him on every move.
Of course.
But that's all if you really water it down. And he's got a ton of energy and he's built business and boom, boom, boom. But the biggest thing I think for people to do, even the podcast, is, show people when you're failing, show them the whole story.
Yeah.
That's why in the podcast we talk, and every time I talk, I'm like, I'll sit there and brainstorm about how I want to make the podcast better on the podcast.
Yeah, on the podcast.
Because I'm hoping that when people listen to the podcast, they're like, okay, I'm gonna get some good value.
Yeah.
But man, real talk.
Real talk.
I think most places have lost this concept of real talk.
Yeah.
And people are like, we edit this out, we edit that. Oh no. We got good microphones here. I got some good equipment. So however our content, or however whoever I'm talking to, however it gets put into the microphone, is how it's going to get distributed out.
Of course.
And that to me is huge.
Of course.
Right? So
how many times have you come home and I'm like, Ryan, so you said I should call, you're like Nora, call Callus today. And do this, and that. I'm just gonna remind you, call Callus today, or call whoever. And you walk in through the door, and I'm like, so I called Callus today, and I talked to this.
Don't give Callus free advertising.
Yeah, or Rogers.
Yeah. Don't give them advertising either.
We have a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
okay, so
yeah,
I call them up, and they're like, I talked to so and so, and they heard our son Dejan crying in the background, or squealing, and they're like, oh, you have a little one? And they're like, how old? Or what's their name? We went to hot a hot flow class the other day, and walked into our normal yoga place. And this girl's like, oh, you had a baby? That's why you haven't been here in a while? What's his name? How old is he? It's I was almost stunned by the questions that they were asking, because they're showing interest, but it creates a story. We planned our Europe trip 2 years ago. In 3 weeks, I booked all these Airbnbs and hotels, and the stories come from the Airbnbs, because it's not generic. I'm talking to a person one-on-one. They can give me an extra discount or a deal. I can say, hey, can you provide us a playpen and a high chair? And in 2 seconds, they can do that, right? And your own personal travel guide. You don't get that from these resorts or hotels. I don't know how many times I've read a review for even a 5-star. I went to this resort, or I went to this hotel, and I showed up, and they said, well, this is what you booked. And you're like, no, I didn't book that. Why am I getting this room, or why am I getting this view? You said garden view, and I'm looking at the pictures online, and it's beautiful. But then when I show up, I get a shed or a rooftop. You know what I mean?
Related, false advertising, misrepresentation.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is relatability in anything that you do. But man, there's lots for us to talk about. I think we're going to get into some trips and vacation down the road. Nora and I have been to quite a few places. I think, man, we could give a really cool perspective on that. We have all our Rome trips and Amalfi Coast trips and Barcelona trips and San Sebastian trips and the Caribbean trips and Mexico trips and Cuba trips and Dominican Republic trips. Yes. We've been to a lot of places. Been to a lot of places.
A lot of stories.
But we love travel. So, man, we are at 36 minutes, 51 seconds. I think it's going to be a good podcast. I feel like we could probably talk for 2 hours right now. However, Nora, is there anything else you'd like to say in this beautiful episode of the Ryan Holtz Show and the Nora Holtz Show podcast, baby?
Totally off topic, but if I see one more picture of toast with avocado on it, I think I'm going to jump through the window and start screaming. Seriously? Just stop with the toast and the avocado. I don't know why avocado all of a sudden became such a huge fad, just from a foodie experience. I'm there's so many other things you could put on toast, and if you slice an avocado and you spread it out and you put it all over you know what I mean? Just enough. And with the smoothie bowls, you can make all the comments and all the feedback that you want, but who wants to eat a smoothie out of a bowl? Right? I mean, yeah. Just put it in a shake, blend it up, and drink it. Okay, those are my only 2 comments I want to make. And enjoy life and travel, and whatever you're talking about, do it. That's about it.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Everyone. Closing remarks. Please go on to Google, Play, iTunes, Stitchers, review the podcast. It would be greatly appreciated. please share it to your friends, to your network. Yes, I know that you know that is free advertising for me, and I'm aware of this. But if you can find it in your hearts,
show the love,
in your sphincters, in your soul, to share this podcast, we'd be very much appreciated. We have some amazing guests coming on. I can't tell you, 2018 is going to be blowing out. It's already blowing out. And again, you can follow myself at Ryan Holtz on any social media platform. You can follow the show at Ryan Holtz Show Podcast on Facebook, the community group, and also on Instagram. Nora, how can people reach out to you?
Nora Holtz on Instagram, and Food for Love 99 on Instagram as well.
There you go, baby.
Yeah.
And I'm going to close it out by saying this. I love you. I hope you do well. I hope whatever you're feeling today, if you're in your car or you're working out or you're at work or you're just in the bed or you couldn't get off the toilet or wherever you're at or however you're feeling, if you're feeling debilitated, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling lonely, just always understand that life is massive. It's big. It's full of hardships. It's full of good stuff. But the Ryan Holtz Show Podcast and the fam, Team Holtz, always wants to make you smile. Don't put fucking avocado on your toast. Boom!
Boom!